Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Loran webinar for educators who are supporting applicants from Northern or Indigenous communities. I will share some general information with you about the Loran Award, and then we'll share an interview with a few of our current in-stream scholars on their experiences with applying before opening it up for a brief Q&A. My name is Heather Holland, and I'm the Director of Alumni and External Relations at Loran. I joined the staff team at Loran just over 3 years ago, and I'm an alum myself from the class of 1998. Prior to joining the staff team at Loran, I assessed applications as a volunteer for over 20 years. It was an educator at my own high school who encouraged me to apply 28 years ago now. So I appreciate firsthand the positive influence that all of you have on your students with respect to this opportunity. Thanks so much for taking the time to be here today. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm joining today from Nogojiwanong, Peterborough, Ontario. As we begin, I acknowledge and reflect on my privilege to live, work, and learn on the traditional territory of the Mississauga Anishinaabe. As we have attendees from all across Turtle Island today, I invite you to take a moment to acknowledge and reflect on where you are calling in from. I have a couple of colleagues here with me as well. Danielle is operating the Zoom and Katie is monitoring the Q&A box to respond to any questions you may have. Thank you both, Danielle and Katie. The Loran Award is much more than simply a financial scholarship for post-secondary studies. It is an opportunity to build critical skills and capacity for leadership, to expand horizons by taking on new challenges and exploring diverse experiences, and to join a community of purpose-driven peers who are committed to leaving the world better than they found it. In other words, this is a long-term investment focused on helping someone see their potential to make a difference, supported by and connected to a network of others who strive to lead with integrity. Students must be graduating from high school or CEGEP in 2026. Students who graduated in 2025 and are currently taking a gap year are eligible to apply as well. All students need to present a minimum cumulative average of 85% or an R score of 29 in Quebec. They need to hold Canadian citizenship or permanent resident status and be born between January 1st, 2004 and September 1st, 2010. The long and the short of the grade requirement is that 85% is an eligibility criteria, but not a selection criteria. Generally, students need to be academically strong, but not necessarily straight A's across the board. So once an applicant meets this mark, it doesn't matter if they have 86% or 98%. Loran's criteria is evidence of character, commitment to community service, and leadership potential. So regarding the permanent resident status for that piece, this has to do with the tuition waiver that is provided by our partner universities being offered only to domestic students. Loran believes that Canada needs unconventional leaders in every sector. So it looks for well-rounded young people who demonstrate strength of character, commitment to service in the community, and leadership potential. Over the past 35 years, the foundation has invested more than $70 million in more than 3,400 students. It's interesting to note that we are a privately funded public charity, so we aren't funded by someone whose last name is Loran, but by rather hundreds and hundreds of donors from across the country who also believe in the work that we do and want to give high potential youth the opportunity to imagine, explore, and create the future. Today, there are 796 alumni and in-stream scholars giving back to their communities and pushing boundaries in diverse fields, such as technology, the arts, finance, medicine, social services, law, government, science, entrepreneurship, and everything in between. Our three pillars are character, service, and leadership. The biggest one, probably at this point in a young person's life, is character. We kind of think of it as the hardwiring, excuse me, already baked into these individuals, even at the age of 16, 17, 18. Looking for the things we mentioned earlier, people who act with integrity, people who show compassion and kindness, people who are inner directed. They're not just chasing outer rewards. They're not solo players. They like to work in teams. We know there are some great solo players who will come up with some wonderful scientific discovery or whatnot. The Loran Award is geared for a different type of person, someone who is always engaged with others, thinking of others, and working with others. We mentioned before the intellectual curiosity and their interest to do different things and wanting to know more. We look for people who show courage and resilience and a commitment to service. And when we say service, sometimes people think that means formal volunteer work exclusively. But really, it's a commitment to others that we're looking for. Helping to make things better for other people, whether that's in their family, their community, their faith group, their schools, the workplace. It's simply that dedication to others. We look for well-roundedness and authenticity and a willingness to take risks. Those who genuinely care about their communities, who want to make things better. They're the people who want to take action. They don't just complain about it, but they get to work on fixing it, and in doing so, they bring others along with them. The selection of a Loran Scholar is unique in both its attention to a young person's character and the comprehensiveness of Loran's selection process. Loran believes in looking beyond a student's transcript to find evidence of integrity, grit, compassion, determination, and resilience, recognizing that these are better indicators of a young person's overall potential. We are looking for the long-term impact these Loran Scholars will have. So we encourage you to think not necessarily of the student council, prime minister, the captain of the hockey team, the first trumpet of the band, or the person who is at the top of the class right now, but rather the student who will come back to their high school reunion in 30 years and will have made a profound impact within their community. As you know, these are not necessarily the same people. So I invite you to think about what students in your classroom might have the potential to grow into the kind of person this award celebrates. Program elements, when taken together, make the Loran Award the only one of its kind in Canada. I'll speak briefly to these elements now and then cover each in more depth as we move through the presentation. So the Loran Award includes an annual stipend of $12,000 plus a top-up for the first-year residents if needed, a tuition waiver of up to $12,000 annually, one-to-one mentorship with a local leader, a summer experiential learning program in 3 different sectors, membership in a values-driven, diverse community, which includes an orientation experience, an annual retreat, events, a national network, and access to a lifelong community. I'll add that the financial component of the award exists mostly so that we can provide scholars with the resources required to enable them to meaningfully contribute to their communities and fully participate in the program. And to clarify that the top up to the annual stipend of $12,000 is additional funds available in first year for individuals where first year university residence cost for a basic room and a meal plan exceed the typical $12,000 annual stipend. This award is renewable for up to 4 years or 8 academic terms. Each scholar is matched with a leader in their university city for a multi-year mentoring relationship. Loran mentors are people who embody the values of Loran and encourage our scholars to do the same. They are business people, community leaders, and experts in their fields, and they commit to sharing their experiences and networks with scholars throughout the course of their undergraduate studies. Potential Loran mentors are identified and recruited by Loran. We go through a matching process for each student, which includes a questionnaire and conversations between scholar, mentor, and staff to confirm a suitable match together. We recognize that mentorship can come in many forms and encourage all scholars to engage in conversations with others who can provide insight or advice on topics around their academic and career interests. We also facilitate connections beyond mentorship, including alumni summer coaching, fourth-year transition conversations, and conversations with upper-year scholars in a program or university of interest. For Loran scholars, summer academic breaks represent opportunities for some of the most transformational learning experiences of their university careers. Assisted by our extensive network and up to $14,000 in funding, students enrich their studies by building practical skills and experience in the professional world to which they will one day contribute. Whether spent in Canada or abroad, Loran summers are typically 12 weeks long and are designed to provide scholars with greater breadth and understanding of the interactions and intersections between the private, public, and not-for-profit sectors, and the role each plays within the local, national, and global community. During public policy summers, scholars witness and participate in the process of policy creation. For enterprise summers, they contribute to the mission and goals of a for-profit environment. And rounding out the trifecta, scholars gain programming and service experience in community development summers as part of a not-for-profit or non-governmental organization. In addition to up to 36 Loran Awards, Loran will be granting up to 70 one-time provincial and territorial awards to candidates chosen by interview committees at the semi-final level, and those are valued at $3,000. We will be also awarding up to 54 one-time finalist awards to finalists not selected as Loran Scholars. These awards are tenable at any publicly funded Canadian university. There are many opportunities for young people to succeed in our selections process. We'll also share that we've heard year after year just how valuable the application process alone is to students. Often it's the first time that they've reflected on their activity record and questioned their curiosities and their motivators. It can be a wonderful exercise to do before life after high school begins. As you know, applications are now open. Students can visit the website on the slide to begin their applications. October 16th before noon Eastern Standard Time is the deadline for all applications this year. Late applications or references will not be accepted. And if a student has connectivity issues, they can contact us at info@loranscholar.ca or at 416-646-2100 extension 100 in order to get a paper application. Paper applications are also due before the deadline. Shortlisted candidates will be asked to submit a supplementary video so that we can learn more about the applicant before semifinals. Then, if selected as a semifinalist, candidates will participate in online interviews via video conference and will be given at least a week's notice before their day of interviews. We will work with students who need support in getting internet connectivity. If we are unsuccessful, they will be interviewed by phone. Semi-finalists who distinguish themselves in interviews will be invited to participate in national selections in Toronto in late February. All candidates will be contacted sometime during the week of December 15th with their results. And costs to come to nationals, if they do advance to nationals, are covered by Loran. One of the most frequently asked questions that we get is, what do I need to do in my interviews to become a Loran Scholar? Loran's interview process is so comprehensive and individualized that there really truly is no one way to become a Loran Scholar. We're not cookie cutter in our process. Our best advice would be for students to just be themselves. Our selections process recognizes that our candidates come from a diversity of backgrounds, each with different opportunities and different challenges. We recruit selection volunteers from a variety of sectors, experiences, and careers who are demonstrating in their own lives the very values we look for in our scholars. And by the time a Loran Scholar is selected, they have been interviewed or assessed by up to 13 different people. Please encourage your students to learn more about the Loran Award by reading up on our website and/or attending a webinar like this one. They can begin the application at apply.loranscholar.ca. The application is made up of a series of short questions to gather the context of the applicant and their experience, followed by 4 essays, with the longest essay being a max of 350 words. We'd encourage your students to start early. They can save their application in pieces and work on it over multiple sessions. While working on their applications, students should determine who will provide a reference. The referee may be a teacher, another faculty member at your school, or whomever else they feel can speak to their activities and qualifications for the award. This person may not be a friend or a family member. They should clearly communicate the request and the deadline to them. Referees will be asked to complete a few questions about the applicant, plus write a reference letter no longer than 250 words. An applicant can trigger the reference request within the application portal. New this year, the referee can complete their portion of the application before the applicant has completed their portion. It remains the case that the application is not fully submitted until the reference portion is complete, and both portions are due before the deadline. Completed applications cannot be changed. We cannot accept letters from referees to attach to an application. It must be done online via the emailed instructions. And referees should check their spam folder. If they don't see an email requesting, they log in after 2 hours following when the reference section was submitted by the applicant. Applicants should stay in close contact with their referee to ensure they submit the recommendation form on time. The application and reference form must be completed before the deadline, or their application will not be considered. Students cannot skip steps. The whole process must be completed online. If they cannot complete an online application for connectivity or other accessibility reasons, as I mentioned, accommodations will be made. So our first webinar for students will be taking place on Tuesday, September 16th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They can sign up at this link, which will also email to you after this session with this webinar's recording. And as promised in advance, we'd now like to share an interview with a few of our current in-stream scholars on their experience with applying.
Ujun Indigenous cause Kanina Brazo, Kisi Quinin First Nation in Dunji. Hi everyone, my name is Kanina Brazo. I'm from Kisi Quinin First Nation, located in Treaty 2 territory. I'm currently studying my Bachelor of Arts at the University of Calgary for my undergrad, majoring in Law and Society. I'm Anishinaabe Kwe. I go by the pronouns she, her.
My name is Akuta Williamson Battery, and I'm a 2023 scholar. I'm from Iqaluit Nunavut, and I go by she, her pronouns. And I'm also Inuk, and I study at the University of Calgary, and I'm studying sociology.
My name is Emma Willoughby. I'm a 2019 Loran Scholar, so I'm graduated from the program, but still very connected. I'm originally from Yellowknife, Northwest Territories. I was born and raised there, but then with Loran, I moved away to Kingston, Ontario, and did 5 years at Queen's University. So I just graduated this past summer from Teachers College, so I'm now a teacher. I think growing up in a smallish community and kind of a little bit removed from the rest of Canada, I was really excited to move away from home, hoping to go to university, see what was out there. But it was definitely still really daunting. So I found out about Loran, and it felt like a good way to kind of help make that transition feel a little bit more attainable, where you then are in this cohort of other people in the same boat. You're meeting people from all across the country. And so I decided to kind of put myself out there and apply for it. And what really drew me to it was kind of the Loran community. It was helpful to kind of help support me moving away from home and starting post-secondary, but really kind of those connections I made was what I was really excited for, and definitely got even more than I could have ever anticipated, like along those lines of the program. So that was definitely what drew me to Loran, was kind of helping that move away from home.
When I applied for the Loran Award, I believe it was like a few days before it was due. I didn't really know much about the program going into it. One of my guidance counselors actually encouraged me to apply, which I'm really grateful for, because I got to learn that it's such a beautiful community of young leaders and young people that are just wanting to make impacts in their community. So I think it was really like a true blessing to be able to be part of such a community. Yeah.
For me, it's very much just staying true to my roots and who I am, and to keep growing as a person and growing connections through all of that. I think for me, it was because it was such a long interview process and such a long writing process. It was a bit intimidating. And for myself, it was kind of just going through the flows of getting ready for university, I kind of used it as a way to prepare myself for university. Like, oh my gosh, there's going to be papers I'm going to need to write. There's going to be interviews I need to prepare for. So I used it as a way to just prepare myself for next steps in life. And so that was one of the, I guess, fears, was like the long process of it, as well as like traveling for interviews. But I was able to get some support in being able to do my interviews online. So yeah.
Something that I found when I was applying back in grade 12, and I've spoken with some other scholars from like smaller, more rural communities, is you sometimes feel that in high school you maybe don't have the same amount of opportunities as someone who's growing up in more of an urban or kind of a hub city. And so you can feel like, oh, maybe my resume isn't as impressive, or what I've done in my community doesn't add up to being the same as someone who's like, say, in Toronto or a big city. But what I appreciated about Loran throughout the whole process is that they were really clear about, it's not about how much you've done or what you've done, it's about why you've done it and kind of your connection to your community. And so being able to show that I was really passionate about the work that I was doing in high school, or kind of the communities that I had formed in Yellowknife when I was growing up, I learned, now looking back, I can tell that that can be so much more valuable than just checking as many boxes as you can and getting as many hours as you can in whatever club or volunteer event you're involved in. And so that was something I definitely felt like, oh, I can't compare, I can't compete with these people who are kind of down south in Canada. But I would encourage applicants not to think of it that way, but more to focus on why you've done what you've done and how it shows who you are as a leader.
A barrier coming from the north and in Indigenous community from the north as well is that we don't have, like Emma said, like the same access to other opportunities that people have, such as like how many jobs you get, how many how many like interviews you can get into for whatever job opportunity or volunteering work. And for example, like sport is such a huge leadership role within our communities, and we don't have access to go to these higher up levels within our sport because of the cost, because of travel, because of the time we get on practice. And so we're very limited to what we can hold as leaders. And so our leadership roles are really honored because everybody in our communities holds some form of leadership. But when you, I guess, compare it to someone of the South, it might not look like a leadership role, but our leadership roles are really strong because we have such small communities and such limited access to what Southerners have access to.
For like rural communities, especially rural First Nation communities that are a great distance from the city, I think we face that issue as well. And another issue that I think that I experienced was like the lack of representation of Indigenous scholars. It was kind of, it was daunting in a way that I think it made me feel like an imposter throughout like the interviews and stuff like that, because it's like you don't see yourself in these roles. So when you're kind of interviewing for them, you don't know what to expect, and you don't know, if you'll get it, because it's like you want to fit into a box, but really that's not what about Loran. Like Loran isn't, you have to fit into a certain criteria. And I think that's what I was going into it. That's what I believed. And then after all, it was quite, it was like a big realization point for me that being authentic and staying authentic to myself was really a big benefit in the process.
I think a big thing for myself and just having conversations with family and friends from back home is that, like I said before, like these leadership roles are so much more diverse, especially from our Indigenous communities, because we hold different leadership roles. And so it's important to remember who you are within the whole process of whatever it is that you're going through, whether it's the Loran interview, whether it's going into post-secondary, no matter what it is, because within our communities, you're a leader when you go down to post-secondary because you're leaving home. It's such a brave thing to leave home. It's such a huge thing whenever like coming to the end of summer or coming to the end of Christmas break, everybody's hearts are aching to leave home. And so we all hold that leadership of paving the path for our future. And so just to keep remembering who you are and what path you're trying to make for yourself and the people following your steps on your trails.
I would say stay authentic to yourself and your communities throughout your application and interviews. Embrace your Indigenous identity, you know, your values, your morals, your teachings. Stay true to who you are because that's what they're looking for.
And another thing off of that too within our communities is that normal activities for us like hunting, collecting water, berry picking, like all these things are such normal things, like activities, everyday activities for us, but other people see them as such high, like, wow, this is crazy that you do that, you know, but for us, it's just normal. And so that just goes to show that within our communities, we have leaders that were just born leaders because we carry these skills, we carry this knowledge right when we're born and as we're growing up. And for myself, I didn't realize this until I left for university because I was like, oh, wow, like there's people that don't get to experience the things we get to experience within our cultures and our activities. So that's something to remember too, that the life that you have within Indigenous communities, you hold such great knowledge, and that in itself is a form of leadership. It was definitely a really exciting experience. I don't think anybody really goes into it thinking like, oh yeah, I'm going to get this scholarship, you know, and it's just a really big learning experience for everybody and huge opportunity to make all these beautiful connections with people and also like possible like work experiences. I know a lot of people got amazing work experiences through working, through having the connection with Loran. And for me, it was a great opportunity to meet amazing people like Kadina, being at the same university as me and making all these beautiful connections. So it was definitely an exciting experience and just to feel the excitement from my community as well, and the pride in that to give back to my community, to take this opportunity to be able to give back to them. Yeah.
It's such a blessing to get to meet so many people that are similar but different, I guess, because it's like a lot of us hold a lot of similar values, and it was just it was so cool to meet so many people that do a lot of work for their communities, although the process was kind of nerve-wracking in the moment. It's very nerve-wracking, but then when you go through it, I think it's like you look back and you're like, oh, it wasn't that bad.
It's been a couple years now since I went through the interview process and the application and everything, but it does still a strong memory I have. It was really a nerve-wracking time for sure, putting yourself out there. I remember I kept it very quiet when I was applying for Loran in the early stages because you never know how it's going to go. But then when you find out you're going to nationals, word gets around town and everyone gets excited. And so I was really grateful to have a lot of support from my community, but it also felt kind of scary going away. And then I knew I was be coming back home with an answer, whatever that would be. But it was just so exciting. I think there were almost 90 of us in my year who all got together in Toronto. And it was kind of the first time in my life I felt like I was around people like so similar to me, yet everyone was also so different. There were a group of 17, 18-year-olds in the big city. Kind of everyone's talking about who they are and what they've done and what they want to do with their lives. And so it was really eye-opening for me. I came from a small town, small high school where my dad was a teacher at the high school. Everyone's kind of known who I was my whole life. And so it just kind of felt like, oh, it gave me a little taste of what was out there and kind of the freedom that was coming with being able to move away from home, but also just getting older. And so it was a really exciting time. And some of my friends, like closest friends still to this day, are people I met then who went on to become scholars in the same year as me, but also people who weren't named Loran scholars. We've still kept in touch because it's just a great opportunity to kind of get together with people and hear about their upbringing and their plans and share your kind of perspectives. And so definitely it was scary kind of having to do interviews and put yourself out there and speak confidently about yourself. That's a hard thing to do at a young age, but also I think equipped me more than I ever could have imagined for where I'm at in my life now and going out and finding a career. I feel like I look back to those days applying for Loran and think about if I could do it then at 17, I can handle myself now that I'm into my 20s. And it really equipped me with a lot of skills and a lot of great connections for sure. One thing I've noticed throughout my years with Loran is really just everyone kind of that you meet has that passion within them, no matter what it's for. Like a lot of my close friends are other Loran scholars in my year and other years, and on paper we're all very different, come from every corner of Canada, pursuing different careers, whether it's I have friends who are now becoming doctors or lawyers or filmmakers and are all pursuing all sorts of different things. And so you would think that, oh, maybe we don't have this much in common. We came from different places and are going different places, but really everyone you meet is just so excited about what they're doing with their life and what they're interested in, but then also so excited to hear about what gets you going, what you enjoy doing and the experiences you've had. And so just that passion for sharing what they know, but then also that excitement to learn from others is something I've really seen as people are so eager, whether it's at retreat, you write a couple facts on your name tag about yourself, and people are so excited to hear about these facts that you've written. And they might not have anything in common at a first glance, but then once you get talking, you realize you make those connections. And no matter what it is, you can kind of find some sort of common topic with another Loran scholar because everyone just gets so excited about what they care about in their lives and the people around them and their communities around them.
A big thing for me that came up, and you touched a lot on that, was just like the curiosity. It's just the curiosity to know more, to explore, to educate yourself. You know, there's a lot of curiosity, and I really like that about all the scholars, because you can have such interesting conversations with everyone, because everyone's so curious about experiences, about stories, and about personalities, and just who you are as a person. Yeah.
I think one thing that's been touched on a lot today, but definitely rings true for this question, is that kind of value of like individuality and authenticity. Is going out into university, when you're applying for university, it can often feel like you need your grades at a certain standard, you need to have certain past experiences, and you need to kind of fit into some certain box to want to get into the program that you want to go to, get into the school that you want to go to. But I've really appreciated kind of in the Loran community is there it does feel that there's space for everyone. And if you can't quite figure out what your space is in the Loran community, then people are so warm and welcoming for you to kind of create that space, whatever it is. And so I've really liked kind of watching myself and my other scholars kind of grow as we've gone through the Loran, kind of our 4 years with Loran, and then becoming alumni, is kind of seeing how people kind of grow into themselves and into kind of their full potential, it seems like. And so I think that's something that's really important to me. And I think all three of us on this call have talked about coming from kind of remote areas of Canada or smaller communities. You don't want to move away to the big city and become the big city per se. You want to be able to kind of keep that part of home with you. And so I felt that in my Loran experience, there's been place for that. People are excited to hear about who I am and where I come from. And so I've appreciated kind of getting connected with the rest of with Canada and with the world, but still kind of being able to feel like there's a place for me in it as well.
Mhm.
For me, I wasn't a very social person, especially coming from a small community. It's like you know everyone, so you're already social with all these people. When you go into these big groups of people, it was such a nerve-wracking process for me, especially in finals. And so I didn't really have that many interactions with the other finalists and now scholars, but it pushed me out of my comfort zone where I had to be able to, you know, socialize with other people and to be more of like a social butterfly, I guess. And not only did that help me with Loran, but it helped me outside of Loran as well. It pushed me to be more social and to join more clubs on campus and just to make a lot more connections than I would have.
For me, and kind of pushing me out of the comfort zone, I feel like a big kind of helper in that was the Loran summer program, and kind of my internships throughout my time as a scholar. One that really stands out was summer after third year. I moved to Halifax and worked with the Nature Conservancy of Canada there. And so I was working with a lot of conservation biologists, and my background is not in environmental science or biology. The environment is something I'm really passionate about, but wasn't necessarily what I was studying in school. And I had never been to the East Coast of Canada before, but decided to kind of apply on a whim because it sounded nice and sounded like a cool job, and I liked being outside. And it worked out, and it became an incredible opportunity where I lived with another scholar in Halifax who was able to show me around, met so many new people, learned about a whole kind of new career field that I had never really considered before. And I don't think I would have put myself out there for a job maybe maybe on paper wasn't the ideal candidate for, but was excited about. And my employers saw that in me, and so decided to take me on. And I think Loran was definitely a key helper in that, and kind of pushing yourself there, not only to go to a totally new area of Canada, but also to try something new in terms of an internship, because who knows, you don't know what's out there until you try it. And so that was really big for me.
I feel for me, it's like coming up, like you said, with the internships. I really want to branch out and create new opportunities and take advantage of these opportunities that are here for everyone. Anybody can take advantage of these opportunities that are there, no matter where they are. So I think that's going to be something that will push me outside of my comfort zone that I'm excited to take on and adventure about with.
That's a big question, as I'm a very recent graduate and haven't moved back to the North yet, but it's definitely in my plan for the future. The North will always be home to me, and so I'm excited to be able to go back there and take everything that I've learned in my time away. But I think just in terms of kind of preparing me for that, something that has been so helpful throughout these past couple of years is really just being able to see myself as a leader. We've talked a lot today about kind of what it means to be a leader and how there's no real kind of cookie cutter, one size fits all kind of definition. And so when I applied for Loran, I was like, oh, like I did student council at school, like that's kind of leadership. Like I played sports and took on leadership roles in that. So I guess I could be called a leader. But now, after 5 years, I feel like I'm starting to get a sense that sure, those are great leadership roles and are very important to me still to this day, but there's also so many other things. Even as a friend, you can be a leader for someone, or a classmate or something. You don't need to necessarily have some formal title to be a leader. And so I'm excited to go back to my community and not only be able to see myself as a leader among my peers and the people back home, but also to kind of be able to see those leadership qualities in the people around me and help them recognize that, and kind of recalibrate and see kind of the leaders that are out there in the community, who can I identify as new mentors for me, and who maybe is a little bit younger and starting out in their journey, and who can I be a mentor for. That's something I'm really excited about. For me, it's been huge. Like through the Loran program, you get an assigned mentor who you can form a relationship with, and that was really helpful moving away from home and moving to a new city, but also just kind of the informal mentors that you meet, whether that's another scholar at your university who may be only a year or two older than you, but they've figured out the show by now, and so they can help you out. That's so helpful. And just being able to, also something that I've gained from this program is being able to like ask for support from mentors around you, where you find something, you've come across someone who you think is really cool, and maybe they're doing something with their life that you really admire and might want to do someday, and just be like, hey, like, can we get a coffee? I just want to hear about what you've done. Like that's something I never would have thought of doing before, because that would have been far too daunting. But now that's something I feel I have a lot more kind of confidence in doing, and just being able to kind of identify others as mentors, but then see it in yourself as well.
I think a big thing with having mentors is like this word comes up, and it's inokatihin, and that's like being human together. So not being intimidated or feeling like there's a hierarchy, because we're all people. We all come from the land. We all eat. We all drink water. We all breathe the air. So it's really important to ground yourself and to remember that we're all human, and to connect on a human level, right? Rather than this like hierarchy of like, oh, they're older than me, they hold this position, this job position, or whatever it may be. And just to remember that we're all human and we're all here to connect and grow together. So, yeah.
I think mentorship in Indigenous communities looks a lot different as well. It's not always these people that hold high positions, whether it be in like commerce or something like that, but these are your elders, your knowledge keepers and stuff like that. These are people that are helping you and paving a way for you as well. I think Loran needs more Indigenous students to apply and to be awarded a Loran because they're thinking generations ahead. So these are young leaders in their communities that are thinking about the future of their communities. And I think it's so important that they take up that space and they represent their communities in a good way, especially not only in their authentic ways, whether that be their teachings and their values, but also in the academic world as well.
Like Kadina had mentioned before, where she had said there's like not much Indigenous representation, and that's really important for youth and for children and anybody of all ages to feel encouraged to keep pushing in their leadership roles. And so it's really important to keep this flow of Indigenous youth getting recognized for their leadership roles and for people within the North to be celebrated for them being people, because we're just all people trying to be better for our communities and keep our communities growing. So, yeah.
Canada's a really big country from east to west, north to south, and I think there's still a lot of work that needs to be done in terms of connecting everyone together and having everyone kind of know what's going on in the other corners of the country. And so I think this, like Loran, is an excellent opportunity for kind of Northern and Indigenous students to have their voices heard kind of in areas where they may not have been 10, 20 years ago kind of thing. I think it's we've got a good time going here where young people are able to get together and kind of share their ideas and share their visions for the future. And so I think it's really important that those voices of Northern students, Indigenous students from all across Canada need to be kind of valued in that conversation as well. And I think this is a great way that can be done.
And just adding off of that too is that there's a lot of ignorant comments or I guess ideas of the North and of Indigenous communities, and amplifying our voices as leaders allows these cycles to break. Like, I'm sure we've all had conversations with someone that, oh yeah, we do have gyms in the North. We do have grocery stores. Inuit don't live in igloos, So it's really important for us as leaders to keep being uplifted and for us to be recognized. And like Kadina said, there definitely needs to be more Indigenous people involved in these amazing opportunities, because there's such amazing leaders all over the North and within our Indigenous communities that do deserve to have that spotlight. So I'm really excited to see the future of Indigenous people and Northerners take advantage of these opportunities and really push themselves out there.
All right, over to you, Katie, for the Q&A.
Hi, everyone. I'm Katie Quinn, Volunteer and Selections Officer with Loran, located near Ottawa. Very nice to be with you today. And we have a bit of time now for questions. I thought I might kick it off just mentioning a couple of questions that come up often in case they're on your minds as well. One is sometimes we hear from educators asking how they can support the youth, the students in their life with applying. And I think one of the biggest things you can do is just to encourage them to apply. One of the qualities that can be strong with Loran scholars, it can, especially in remote and northern areas, is humility. And so they may just having an adult in their life who sees those qualities, affirms that they're a good fit for this and supports them to apply, can really make all the difference in the world. So just that encouragement. And just along the same lines, we're sometimes asked about advice for identifying students within your schools who would thrive in the Loran program, because a lot of the selections process is finding that fit. Just as Heather mentioned, that although solo stars are remarkable people and may go on to have outstanding careers, they're not the best fit for the Loran program. And so just really looking for those students in your school who model compassion, kindness, who are not driven by external rewards, who are really driven by those things that matter deeply to them, their values, giving back to their communities, that are working away consistently on the issues that are important to them. Those are the students who would likely progress in our selections process and who would really thrive in the Loran program. So yeah, those were just a couple of areas that I wanted to mention to just start off this session of questions, but to just open it now for yeah, things that you're wondering about. Follow up to these amazing young people that we just heard from. They're so inspiring, and I think did a really good job of explaining the impact of the program, what it's like to apply, what it's like to go through that selections process, and the benefits you can get from pursuing the Loran program.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll just give it a moment to see if there's any questions that come in. And if not, we'll close and invite anything that comes to mind after the fact. Invite you to reach out to info@loranscholar.ca. We're always happy to chat with educators and applicant supporters in advance of the deadline as you're encouraging students in your school communities to apply. I think we can close and just thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And please don't hesitate to reach out about anything at all. It looks like we got one.
Okay, let's see. So somebody's just asking, Heather, if you could briefly talk about a Canadian student applying from outside of Canada.
Yeah, we certainly get several of those every year, and they fill out the application via the portal in the same way as anyone else would. There'll be an opportunity to specify the school that they're applying from and where it's located, and move through the process from there. So every applicant needs to indicate that they are either a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident, and regardless of where they're applying from, they're eligible as long as they're planning to attend university in Canada.
Yeah, one of those partner universities.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. All the best and take care.
Thanks, everyone.